Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Grue Room. And for the Grue Room today, we are kicking it with wrestling again. We just interviewed Mickie James, and now we are interviewing Jacques Rogeau from the Fabulous Rogeau Brothers and the Mountie. And he is the head of Wrestling Academy, and we're going to talk all about Wrestling Academy. And they got a big contest that's coming up, a competition that's coming up, and we're going to hear from Jacques about all that and about his wrestling career and his time in the WWE. I am Rocco Cross. I am the host at Stutters. I am the host of the Grue Room, and my interview with Jacques Rogeau, the Mountie, is coming up next. Okay, welcome to Grue, and thank you so much for taking time out of your night and coming on the show.
Thank you for having me on your podcast, Rocco.
Thanks, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, like the first thing I wanted to start out asking you, like I'm going to ask a little bit about your wrestling life before we jump into the Wrestling Academy. When did you first get the call to go over to the WWF or the WWE?
Well, I started in '86, actually. My brother Raymond and I, we were working together for about 10 years before that. And finally, I made my way with in 1986. And Raymond and I, we went to meet Vince McMahon in Stamford, Connecticut. And the big limousine came to pick us up, and the big to try to impress us. And and it actually worked. And so we did '86, and then Raymond and I did a couple of years as good guys, and then we did 2 years as bad guys, as the Fabulous Rogeau Brothers, and then Raymond retired from then.
Okay, yeah, because I saw he became a mayor, right? Is he still the mayor?
Yeah, he just was elected. He was just elected a couple of months ago. I hope he's still the mayor. But he's always been a smart guy, Raymond. He's always been a businessman. I was more like the active kind of guy that thought that tomorrow will always be there. And so we have a different kind of lifestyle, him and I. Gotcha. But he did very, very, very well for himself, and he's very well respected in Roddy, in the town he's living in right now. So power to him, another Jesse the Body Ventura.
Right, exactly. And when you were teaming with him in the WWE, like that was my best era of tag team wrestling. I mean, you had you guys, the Hearts, the Bulldogs, the Rockers, and Demolition, like out of all
Killer
those
Bees.
Oh yes, yes, the Killer Bees.
There were so many teams. Mike Rotundo and IRS.
Yes,
IRS and who was he tag team with? Danny Spivey.
Yes.
He was tagging with Danny Spivey. There was the Islanders. You had Tonga Kid. You had Tonga, and it was amazing, the tag team era in the '80s. It was we didn't miss any tag teams, that's for sure.
Exactly. Like, out of all those teams, like working all those different teams, was there a tag team that you both loved working?
There was some, of course, that I liked more than others, but to be honest with you, the best tag team feuds we had, I think, was with the Hart Foundation, Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Bret, and also the Rockers. Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels. We had some great tag team matches with those guys. They were so talented. so it was easy. We could easily go into the ring 20, 25 minutes easy and have fun there. But I remember with the Rockers, it was they were so good that we were doing some 1 hour matches, some marathon matches with them. So that was pretty impressive. Yeah. And on one day we were in London, England. We had a 1 hour match, and it was like an afternoon show. And then we flew into Philadelphia, and then we did a 1 hour match that night because of the time change. Because when we finished our match, like at 2 o'clock, in London, well, we flew 6 hours, but it was 2 o'clock when we landed in the States. So we had time to do another marathon match that night. So we did 2 hours. Yeah. So, but they were the guys to do it with. Marty Jannetty was such a great worker, and Shawn Michaels, of course, everybody knows that. So, yeah. And my brother was such a great worker. So it was easy for us to time ourselves to go in and put an hour and give our efforts and give another. That's the advantage of being wrestling in tag teams. You can give your partner a break if he needs it, And so it was good times. Then it was really good times.
Oh, wow. That is a lot of wrestling. Hour-long matches and wrestling both in like the same day.
Yeah. Wow. 2 hours of wrestling in front of 36,000 people, 18,000 in one place and 18,000 at the other place.
Oh my God. And you say the wrestling the Hearts. Like there was a match on a house show where the Hearts dropped the belts to you and your brother, but WWE didn't acknowledge. They didn't play that off. Yeah.
No, they didn't. Actually, they if we all remember the screw job in Montreal where Bret the Hitman Hart with Shawn Michaels, well, that wasn't really the screw job for the Quebecers. The screw job for the Quebecers is when we beat the Hearts for the title, and we took the titles away, and 4 days later they put a little ad in the newspaper, just a little ad to say that because Jimmy Hart used a megaphone, it wasn't the right guy, so they took the belts away from us. But there's 8 million people that live in Quebec, so about 100,000 just saw the article. So about figure it out, 7,900,000 people were waiting to see us on TV on Saturday to come in with the belts. And when the Hearts came in with the belts, it was so funny. They never acknowledged that we were champions that week. So that was a real screw job for the Quebec people. It really was.
Wow, that's crazy.
But I heard they did the same thing to the Rockers in Texas.
They did, yeah.
So that's what I heard. Someone told me on a podcast lately. So I guess Vince liked the screw jobs, I guess,
And, during your feud with Davey Boy and Dynamite Kid, there was a backstage fight between you and Dynamite Kid.
Yes, there was, and the guys were guys that took a lot of ingredients that weren't legal and substances and like quaaludes and steroids and they were going out and in the bars all night long until 6 a.m. So when you have guys that are on steroids and they mix all that alcohol and drugs, it makes them funny kind of guys, and they were not so much Davey Boy, but Dynamite was a real bully. And he liked to play jokes with Mr. Fuji and a couple of guys that and I see you laughing right now, which I thought it's okay if you're laughing about it, but to be honest with you, when you're caught up in that situation, it's really not funny.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a very hard time for me in my life, and so when he found out that I was going to put a stop to it by talking to Vince, he just beat me up in the dressing room like really bad. And
oh my God.
And then and then about a week later I had to do what I had to do, and so I got some advice from my dad and got a roll of quarters in my hand, and I did what I had to do. And but I never asked for it, I never instigated it, I never wanted it. Mm-hmm. But the good thing about that, because there is a good thing that comes out of it, and if you don't know the story, you could always go watch Dark Side of the Ring on YouTube, and you'll see the Tom Billinger episode in the 3rd season, and it shows pretty much of what happened. But the good thing that came out of that, and you wouldn't think there would be a good thing that came out of that, is that for 20 years after that, I gave conferences in schools against bullying, because it was a way for me to do therapy, to get over the trauma that I lived in the dressing room that night. And so now all is well, and it's like I say, karma does things and takes care of things, and so I'm doing well now. And but we got to remember one thing: the British Bulldogs were one of the greatest teams in wrestling.
Oh,
when they were on their top of their game. I'll tell you, Raymond and I had a great match with them in Madison Square Gardens, and we actually did a 20-minute Broadway with them to a no winners, and probably that's what instigated all this hate that the Dynamite had towards me, because they were world tag team champions, and we were just the two new French guys that were coming in, in the territory, and they underestimated that Vince really liked us, and he wanted to give us some kind of a push. And so when we got in the dressing room that night and we were all sitting together, and Vince says, "Okay, guys, I'd like to have a no winners tonight, just a 20-minute match." And I was like looking at my brother Raymond going, "Yes, the world champions are not beating us,
Yes,
and then,
exactly.
but when someone's happy, the other one's unhappy. You know how that goes in life. So they were probably going to world champions saying, "What the hell? How come we're not beating these jabronis here?" So that instigated a lot of heat then. And but it was a hard life. We were on the road 25 days a month, and we'd get home for like 4 days, because it took 2 days of traveling out of there. So we'd be home for 4 days with our family. And it took a toll. And if you remember, there's a lot of things that people don't know in the underneath of this crazy world we were living in. If you take an example of Chris Benoit, who worked so hard, he and almost like Dynamite Kid, he had the small man complex, where he wasn't a big guy, so he had to really push his weight and talk loud and intimidate to try and make its place. And Chris Benoit, great guy. But when you're on the road like 25 days a month, and you're on these things that you're taking, your mind is not all there. And then you get home, like Chris Benoit, I could just picture him getting home. And in wrestling, you have a good time, you're going up, and then finally you got to let your place, give somebody else a spot. And Chris Benoit had just had a great run as world champion. And so he just he was going down now. So he was not only on the road, it was harder, because when you start losing, it gets hard on the morale, and then when you get home after 25 days and you go to the airport, and the first thing you say is you want to take your kid in your hands, and you pick up your boy, he's 6 years old, and you want to love him. And the first thing he says to you, he says, "Daddy, why are you always losing?" So that plays a lot on a man when he's caught up in all these substances that are illegal. So you know what happened then? He killed his wife on Friday night and killed his son on the Saturday morning and took his life on the Sunday, I think. So all in 3 days. So the guys were not all in control all the time, and most of the guys that were in the WWF those days were on steroids.
That's true.
So there was about 4 or 5 guys that wasn't. I'm thinking of Mike Sharp. I'm thinking of Ricky Martel, my brother Raymond, myself, Tito Santana, but there were very few, because Vince proned and he liked the big guys, and he was pushing the big guys. So he's giving breaks to the big guys. So the other guys that were very tempted to get into the wave, or they knew they would put aside. And Vince would never tell the guys to take steroids, but he would take care of the guys who would do it. So it was like subconsciously, the guys were doing it. So it was an era where I used to call, when I think back in those days, I always think that what a jungle we were in, I remember coming in one night, and Randy Savage was sitting there, Macho Man. And he just, and I saw him on Monday night, and I left the building and I said, "Good night, Randy." He says, "Good night, Jacques." And so next morning I come in the dressing room, or I met him in the gym or somewhere, and I said, "Hey, how you doing, Randy?" He's, "Fuck off."
Oh my God.
Since last night, 36 hours later, he had a completely different personality.
Wow.
So that was all the things that was going on the road that people don't know. And a lot of people were telling me at the time, they were saying, "Jesus Christ, what a great life you have. Los Angeles one day, San Diego the other day, and Australia the other day." They have no idea, when you're traveling with a bunch of guys that are out of control, that miss their family and lose their luggage, delayed flight, and they have to go work out, They have to go eat. They have to go to the tanning salon to get to look good. They have to go to the arena. They have to go to bed. They have to get up, bring the rent-a-car back. They have to get back on a plane. And people were telling us, oh, what a great life. You're seeing the world. But the only things we were seeing was hotel, gyms, and restaurants and arenas.
Oh my
that's the only
God.
thing.
Wow.
So it was a hard life. It really was a hard life.
Oh, wow. And one of the guys that a lot of people always talk good about is the eighth wonder of the world, Andre the Giant. How was he towards you?
Awesome. Andre the Giant, when I was about 4 years old, he used to come and wrestle in Montreal for my dad. I'm a third generation wrestler, and my sons are fourth generation. So when I was a kid, I was brought up in this world. And Andre used to come to Montreal a lot because he spoke French, and it was a different kind of French from France, but it was French. So we understood him very well. And he had this liking. He fell in love with Montreal, Andre. So he had some businesses. And he owned actually the wrestling business for a while with Gino Brito and Dino Bravo and Frank Valois. And so he had a lot of liking there. So when he was coming to wrestle in Montreal, my father owned the business with my Uncle Johnny also at a time. So when I was 4 years old, I'd go to the big arena, the Montreal Forum, where the Montreal Canadiens would play at, and they had the office at the Paul Sauvé Arena, not too far. And he was just, I guess, because I was the son's promoter, he was always nice to me.
Oh, good.
But then as I grew up and I got into the 80s, because I started wrestling in 77. So when I got into the 80s, it didn't take me long. I was down south. I was in Pensacola. I was in Knoxville, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee. I was in Florida. I was in Kansas City. I was TBS in Atlanta. And all these places, you'd always see come in once a month. You'd see Ric Flair come in, for a main event, or you'd see Andre the Giant. And every time Andre would come into the town, my mom had taught me a great game. It's called crib, cribbage. I don't know if you know what kind. It's you play with cards and you have a little pegs that you put in a board.
Yes.
It's called. And he was an expert at that. So and my mom had taught me. So I was one of the few guys. There was only like Arnold Skolin, the agent. There was Tito Santana knew how to play a bit, but me and Andre would play every time we'd meet. So he really got along good with me, and actually, and the fun thing of Andre is when we were flying overseas or long trips, like from San Francisco to Boston or something like that, he would always have he'd have a first class seat, of course, but they could never sell the seat beside him because he was too big. His arm would overlap the seat that's beside him. So that seat was always empty. And every time we'd take off on a flight, he'd always send the flight attendant back in the jabronis there section. And he'd say, the flight attendant would come in and say, Jacques Rogeau. And I'd say, yep. And then go on up front, so I'd fly first class, and get all the service. So that was fun. That was really fun. So I was always hoping to be on Andre's card because I knew it was first class.
Wow, that is so awesome. And when you came back to the WWE, when you found out that they were gonna have you do a brand new gimmick and dress up with the hat, the sunglasses, the red shirt, and you actually sung your own theme song too. So
yeah, I had fun doing that. Yeah, that was great.
Like
the Mountie.
Yes. When they came to you with changing up your gimmick,
character.
like your character, how did
that was good.
You take it, react to it.
That was awesome because my brother Raymond had quit in 1989. We'd been in the WWF for 4 years, actually 86, 87, and then 88, 89. And then my brother Raymond was fed up of being on the road. He's 5 years older than me, and he's very wealthy.
Okay.
Yeah, so he didn't care about wrestling anymore that much. We missed the spot of becoming champions, and so that really kind of ticked him off. Because some teams came in like Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard that just came in out of nowhere and they passed right in front of us, and we were waiting for our shot to finally get the titles after the screw job Montreal. We were always hoping that we'd get a second chance. And at least show ourselves around the world as being tag team champions. So my brother Raymond got fed up of that, and he just quit the business. So I went home, and I was doing a couple of indies, like in Puerto Rico for Carlos Colon. I was going to wrestle Abdullah a couple of times, or doing things like that. And then finally I got the call, and they wanted me to. Vince called me up, and he says, "Hey, we got a new character for you, and how would you like to be a Mountie?" I said, "A Mountie?" Like, and then finally it just happened. I became a Mountie, and I asked Vince, I said, "Okay, I'd love to do it." I said, "But I'd like to put my 2 cents in there." It was his idea, but I said, I have a guy who used to be a manager when I was young, Eddie the Brain Creechman, in my younger age, when I was like 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, and I used to hang around the dressing room. And this guy, he was Abdullah's manager, but he had an electric shock stick. And he used to scare the shit out of me. So, in the dressing room. And I was so afraid of it that I said, if I was afraid of it, then the fans will be afraid of it. So I asked Vince, I said, I'd like to bring a shock stick with me. And that started the gimmick with the shock stick. And what a run that I had with that character. Like, oh my God, I had fun, especially with Big Boss Man,
Oh my God, it was a great feud.
We were both working to accumulating our wins on each side. And then plus going for that unavoidable clash between the Georgia cop and the Canadian cop, and me ended up spending the night in jail. That was unfair.
Oh my God, yes.
But that was amazing. That was really awesome. It was fun. Yeah, it was a great character. I loved the Mountie.
Yeah, that was such a fun feud with you and the boss man. Like it was a great feud. And your first belt, like your first belt as a singles wrestler, was when you beat Bret Hart for the belt. And like, how was that match like going over on Bret?
Well, Bret was a funny guy in the business. Bret was a very, very nice guy. I loved Bret all the time, but he was very hard to do business with. He didn't like to lose, and actually that's why they had the screw job in Montreal with Shawn Michaels, because he was going for WCW, and he wanted to take the WWF belt with him, so he didn't want to drop the belt. And when it came time for me, I think I was just a little pawn on the because I wasn't important in that equation, because actually I think Bret was scheduled to drop the Piper on the pay-per-view. And I think Bret probably didn't want to. I'm just assuming, I don't know. And so that's why Vince put me in the middle there to take the belt off of Bret and to give it to Piper 2 days later. I'm the shortest lived intercontinental title that ever existed. I got it, baby. It's 2 days. And but believe me, I took pictures. And but the funniest thing about that is 30 years later, every Comic-Con I go on and every signing autographs, they got this Mountie doll or Mountie pictures, and I got the Intercontinental belt on my shoulder. And I'm saying, wow, that's amazing. I only had it for 2 days. But that's life, and then again, Bret, when he dropped the belt to me, I really had no credit, because when I got into the ring in Springfield, Massachusetts, Bret, I was in the ring, and then Bret came in with the belt, but he was really coming in slow. And then so finally the referee came to see him, and he says, "No, you shouldn't come in. You shouldn't come in." And it was stalling at the beginning. And then finally the announcer would say, "Well, Bret the Hitman Hart said that his doctor said he shouldn't wrestle tonight. He has 104 fever, but he's gonna wrestle anyway." so I beat a sick guy, So it's like I find that so funny today, because I didn't beat anybody really, and I only kept it for 2 days. But boy, the pictures are good, boy. I'll tell you, those pictures of the belts were awesome.
and like the match you worked with Rowdy Piper was great. Like that was a really great match, and actually to be in the ring with someone on the level as Rowdy Piper, like that must have been awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. And you know what? I knew I had to drop the belt to him, so I only had it for 2 days. So I came up with this idea and he took it right away. Rowdy was a very, very nice guy. And he took my idea right away. So I told him, I said, hey, at the end, boom, 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 we'll have an interference with Jimmy. And then I'm going to take my shock stick and I'm going to go and I'm going to zap you. And then when I zap you, I'm going to put my stick back down. I'm going to turn around and then you just kick my ass and boom, boom, boom. And I don't know what happened. And the next thing you know, he had a shirt, a vest that was an anti-shock vest on, and it was so funny because he liked the idea right away. And so that was great for me. And like you said, to work with such icons, like it was Bret and Rowdy. And I remember even a great match I had in Manchester, England. I wrestled against Randy when he was world champion.
Oh, wow.
With Miss Elizabeth in main event, because the Mountie was very, very popular in Europe because of the guards. The guards that they have there that they can't move, they can't blink an eye.
Yes.
And I had so much fun, and they pushed my Mountie gimmick so far over there. So it was like one officer to another, and I was trying to make him laugh and trying to do shit with Jimmy Hart. And so I got so much heat over there in Europe. So they put me in the main event against Randy, and what a great match. So I had a lot of opportunities to wrestle with icons, like even in Montreal. I'm the only Canadian to ever beat Hulk Hogan.
I know.
And so it's like, for me, it's like all these guys that did me and Hulk did me the favor of putting me over without a gimmick, without a chair, without interference. It was just a clean win, 1, 2, 3 in my hometown. So that gave me a lot of notoriety, as far as, and not only from the fans, but from the boys. It's like, why is he winning? Like, why in the shot? That gave me a lot of heat too, but I could accept the heat because it was worth it. I didn't mind that people that hate me because I won, because I said, hey, you try and do it, but anyway, so it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, because I remember when that all went down, like you actually got a clean pinfall victory over Hulk, and at that time, like, no one hardly ever beat Hulk clean.
No, because he was NWO. He was in the peak of his time. He was with Razor Ramon and Diesel, and they were going in the New World Order everywhere.
Yeah.
So nobody expected that, and I was the last one to expect it too. And so when we got in the dressing room, and he just decided that he wanted to put me over because I had booked that show. I'm the one who booked that show, and I had a lawyer who put $250,000 in money, cash down, for the Molson Center to rent it, and the publicity and the marketing. So he believed in me, and actually it was full, the place. So it was fun. So when Hulk got there, and I was the first time WCW had come to Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and so I was the one opening the doors for them. And I also got a TV station for them, so because it was all WWF, and then it was WCW finally, that came in. So I did such a big favor to the company, and at the same time, I honestly believe that there was a little heat between Eric Bischoff, and Hulk, because Eric Bischoff was the booker, but Hulk was Hulk. So when they had disagreements, it kind of heated up. So I think I took just the right time where I opened the show, and I asked to work with Hulk, and Bischoff had nothing to do with it. And Hulk was like, he was saying, hey, I want to do this. I want to do this. So he did it. And then I think he just wanted to piss off Bischoff. I don't know what, but I took the wave. I just jumped the wave, and I said, hey, why not? What great credibility to beat Hulk Hogan.
Yes, definitely. Wow. And one of the current stars in the WWE now, you actually trained, Kevin Owens, right?
Absolutely. He came to my school. He was a little boy, 14 years old. And then he left. He was 19 years old. I had him for 5 years. And I taught him how to wrestle. I taught him how to take his steps. And I taught him how to protect the other guys in the ring. I taught him how to do promos. And so it's a great honor for me to be honest with you, to have one of my students. But now you're almost bringing me into this thing I want to talk to you about, Wrestling Academy.
Exactly.
Because there's the greatest thing that I put together in Canada right now, and it's like it's going to be a first time where I'll tell you about this. This is amazing. It's like every province. There's 10 provinces in Quebec. from all the way to Vancouver, BC, to Alberta, and to Manitoba, to Saskatchewan, to Toronto, and to Quebec, and then the four provinces at the other end. There are Halifax, Newfoundland, and New Brunswick, and l'Île du Prince-Édouard. So it's like there's 4 little provinces there, but for the first time, because in every province, they each have indies, federation, independent federations. So I went to recruit all the best wrestlers of every independent company. And I made a contest where we have 40 contestants now, girl and men, where they're going to compete with 3 judges by the ring. And it's going to be a 12-week deal. And for every week, there's going to be 4 wrestlers that are going to be eliminated. So as we go down to the nitty gritty, it's really awesome because we found that, and this project is great because it's my girlfriend and me that did this for 8 months now. We're putting this together. It's really just me and her and putting this together. And we found 4 sponsors that gave $5,000 each. So the 4 winners are going to get $5,000 each of them. And plus, and then I had this crazy idea, to call the Nightmare Factory in the States, where QT Marshall is part owner of that. And he had such respect for me. So I asked him, I said, would you mind if I take my 4 winners and I take them to Atlanta and they get evaluated by you, just to give them a tease of what
exactly.
To be in the big leagues, because all the big leagues recruit from the Nightmare Factory.
Yes.
So he said, sure, I'll do that. That's not a problem. So I started giving him exposure about 8 months ago. And then as this project grew and is growing, then QT Marshall, about 2 weeks ago, he calls me up and he says, Jacques, what are you doing? He says, my phone is ringing off the wall. He says, because every time I do a podcast, I always ask the people to put the QT Marshall interview in there and the Bret the Hitman Hart interview in there. So they keep getting calls and calls. So QT Marshall, he says to me about 2 weeks ago, he says, Jacques, you're doing a great job in marketing. So he says, why don't I do something for you? He says, instead of your winners coming for 1 day, he says, why don't I have them for a week? And hey, when I told my talent in Canada, you're going for a week with QT Marshall, they went like, wow. But then that was it. That wasn't it. Because I did so many podcasts. I'm doing 2-3 a day now in the last 2 weeks. So then he calls me up. So actually, he didn't call me up. I'm doing a podcast with a guy called Nick. So I asked him, I said, would you mind putting a message there for me on Nick's podcast, the Rise podcast, and just put a little something to show the people that we are still in this thing, and because I needed the help to get some credibility. Yeah. So he said, sure, I'll do that. So we get the video to send to this guy for that night. I'm going to do the podcast. My girlfriend and I were looking at each other. Well, let's check out the video for the fun of it. And then he comes up with the video like this. So can you insert this? We're going to go ahead and take a break here and insert the QT Marshall podcast, his interview. I'd like for people to see that if it's possible now.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, this is QT Marshall from All Elite Wrestling and one of the owners of one of the best training facilities in the world, the Nightmare Factory. And I wanted to give a quick shout out to Nick, who runs a Rise podcast, and this evening has Jacques Rogeau on there. And Jacques has a great project in the works. I'm excited about it. In fact, the Nightmare Factory has even told Mr. Rougeau that the winners of this project will receive a special 3-month, 12-week scholarship to the Nightmare Factory, which has seen athletes from all over the world come train with us. And honestly, some have signed contracts with major wrestling organizations in the world, such as AEW and stuff like that. So I'm excited for this project. I think it's great for aspiring professional wrestlers all throughout Canada. I support it, and I hope that if all works out well, I'll be able to come up to Montreal and partake in being one of the judges of this special project. So good luck to everyone. Just wanted to say hello. Just wanted to let everybody know that it is me, and we are offering this scholarship to the winners. So you can read into it whatever you want, but you've heard it straight from the horse's mouth. It is true. And again, good luck to everyone, and hopefully see you soon.
Wow. That is amazing.
Isn't that amazing? So
that
then
really is.
So he says he wants to take my talent for 3 months. It's like he went from 1 day to 2 weeks to 1 week, and now it's 3 months. Well, Rocco, I got to tell you what that means. That means that with the first day they were going, the talent would have been so choked up and nervous, the dry throat and everything, that you never had a second chance to make a first impression. Mm-hmm. But then when he gave us a week, I told all my talent, hey, it doesn't matter if you fuck up on one night because you have 6 more nights that you could look good, you know. But now 3 months, I'll tell you what it means. You know, a lot of the guys in the business today, they didn't make it. And all these indies that are great workers, they didn't make it for 2 reasons. The first reason is they didn't know anybody. They didn't have any connection. And the second reason is they weren't at the right place at the right time. So now they're going to spend 3 months at the Nightmare Factory where all the wrestlers go on, the world wrestlers, the top companies, they go work out there at the Nightmare Factory. So they're going to be talking to the 4 winners like every day for 3 months. Hey, how you doing? So they're going to make friends. They're going to make contacts. And then I feel like QT Marshall at this point right now, he is taking this project like his pet project. Like he's so happy. So now it's like he's really into this thing. And so I honestly hope that 2 of my 4 will be recruited for the big leagues. You know, so now there's a tremendous wave going on about the talent are just freaking out that if they have a chance to spend 3 months there, they're going to be at the right place at the right time. And they're going to know the right people, the things that they need to make it in this business. And you know what helped me through this project too is when you go on the website, wrestling-academy.ca, I'm going to repeat it, wrestling-academy.ca, you can see all this tournament taking place, but you're also going to see, for the people that are 30 or 40 years and older, you're going to see all these talent that used to work with me in the ring giving words of encouragement to the Canadian wrestlers, saying that this is the greatest tournament they've ever seen. And one of them, I'd like for you to show it, if you don't mind, is Bret the Hitman Hart. Can we take a look at that?
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, this is Bret the Hitman Hart, and I want to wish all the best to Jacques Rogeau and his Wrestling Academy 2022. I know they got a big event coming up, a big contest, and a great opportunity for wrestlers across Canada, men and women, to train and maybe win $5,000 and ultimately get a chance to train with QT Marshall and the Nightmare Factory and maybe get a chance to maybe wrestle for AEW. But all I know is this is a great opportunity for every young wrestler, and I want to just thank Jacques Rogeau for putting the idea together. I hope it works out really well, and may the best wrestlers win.
Wow, isn't that something? Bret the Hitman Hart telling everybody good luck. And you know, there's not a bigger icon in the business that from Canada. He's the biggest one. I thought it was me for a while, but then I know. But Bret the Hitman Hart is the biggest icon that ever came out of Canada. And there he is encouraging all the Canadian wrestlers to say, may the best wrestler win. You know, and good luck for the $5,000. Good luck to go to QT Marshall School. And who knows where they're going to end up, maybe for the big leagues. So you have these 2 ingredients, QT Marshall, who's saying, I'm taking them for 3 months. And you have Bret the Hitman Hart and all these other guys like Lanny Poffo, Tugboat. You got $1 Million Man. You got Ricky Steamboat, Tito Santana, Coco Beware. You got a bunch of them. If you got, I don't know if you watch MMA, George St. GSP in MMA. He's like the Ultimate Fighting champion.
Oh, okay.
He gives a nice word even if he's not a wrestler. So a lot of comedians, a lot of singers are going ahead and encouraging all the Canadian talent and wish them good luck. So this is becoming a big buzz in Canada now. It's the first time that happened so big, something so big. And I'm just proud, honestly, to pass the torch. Like, you know,
definitely.
So one day, if 2 of these beautiful talent in Canada make it in the big leagues, they'll always be able to say, I entered Jacques Rougeau's tournament, and that was my break to bring me in the big league. So that's very, very good for my heart. You know, it's good for me. Yeah.
Wow, I mean, the wrestlers that actually win this are going to be so happy, so lucky. Like, because like you were saying, it's very hard for wrestlers to
from Canada to go into the States.
Yeah,
exactly. And you know what's great about this tournament? I'll tell you what's even better. This is why I have every newspaper in Canada is talking about this. I'm getting write-ups every day. You know, if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, I believe, Rocco.
Yes.
So you're seeing all these ads coming in from different cities. So the thing is why they're doing this is because when the show starts and the elimination starts, we'll have 40 contestants. But when we eliminate 4 every week, there's going to be 3 judges by the ring who are going to vote, but they're going to vote for only 40% of the votes. And all the 60% of the votes, the rest of them is people like you in Philly, like people in London, from people in Australia that could just take their phone, and they could text in to say, hey, I want to keep this one. I don't want to keep this one. So it's going to become a worldwide interaction, a reality show. So it's awesome. It's really something that's amazing in Canada right now.
Wow. And when is this going to start?
It's going to start in May, hopefully, with, you know, the variants and COVID. But we're looking now, things seem to starting to dissipate now slowly. We used to have on our phone a QR test to go into restaurants and stuff, and now they're taking that away. And so now that's good. And the gyms have reopened. Everything's starting to reopen. And so I think that everything, and the masks are going to disappear also, I believe, soon, with the vaccines that we all had. People are tired or fed up of it.
Oh,
so
my
now
God,
it's
yeah.
So now I think it's right. The timing is perfect for May, and it's all going to start in May. And so don't you forget, fans out there, to go on to wrestling-academy.ca and follow this, subscribe, you know. And you know, it's funny because before I did this contest, I used to watch videos, The Voice and stuff like that. I'm a great, I like singing and stuff like that. So I'd watch The Voice, and I'd always hear at the end of the video, please subscribe.
Yes, exactly.
And I was saying, shut up. Like, you know, and now I'm the one saying, please subscribe at wrestling-academy.ca. So it took me longer than the normal person to get in there, but I'm in now. I'm in, baby. I'm in.
You say you like music and stuff. What kind of songs do you like listening to? Like what's on your playlist?
You know what I like so many songs, but I like the Rihannas and the Chandeliers and I like all those songs where it takes a lot of good voice, and it takes some, and I like the voice a lot because it's almost going to be like the Wrestling Academy. It's going to be like you're going in the ring and your neck is on the tree there. You know, the guy has an axe there, and your neck is right there, and it's a do or die situation. You know, and all that pressure. And then sometimes I'm there sitting there and I'm talking to the judges, like, come on, press your button, turn around, you know, and I like that pressure that the talent has, you know, and it's going to be the same thing. They're going to go in the ring now and they're going to perform in front of 3 judges. And I believe that a lot of the guys are going to be tying their boots and their shoes is going to be going like this, you know, because it's going to be this pressure that always comes and knowing that the whole world is watching. You know, like if you go out there and you trip and make a fool out of yourself, people are going to remember you for that. You know, you have this. So you have, and if you go out there and you perform a great performance, you just made yourself a name around the world. So you have that stress, and I love that stress. I can't wait to see who's going to handle the stress. And another thing that's fun about that is we're going to be in the dressing room earlier that day, and we're going to just flip a coin to see who goes over, who's winning and who's losing. It's going to be out of a coin because we're not going to be judging this competition by who wins or who loses.
Well, yeah.
And I'm going to make sure that whoever wins, that his opponent has 60% of the match, that he looks better. So it's I'm going to make sure that the value of the character never loses value after the match, whether you win or lose. So it's all going to be judged on ability in the ring, weight transfer, on the microphone, your interviews, charisma. Yeah. And then a lot of people ask me, they say, "Oh, Jacques, charisma. How do you define charisma? You know, what's charisma?" I'll tell you how to define charisma. If anybody's looking for a good answer, if you go in a bar and there's TVs all over the place, and then you just look up at a TV, a wrestling show, and there's 2 things that are going to happen. You're going to look at it like this, and you're going to keep going, or you're going to look at it and you're going to stop. I call that charisma. Because they draw people. It's gravity. If you don't have charisma, people look at it a second and say, boring or whatever.
That's true.
But when you go in front of a TV and you see some great characters that you honestly believe that these guys are really what they show they are. And to have charisma, you know, the best thing I think that worked for me, because I had a 41-year career I professionally. I have to say that people ask me, like, you know, what helped you through your career? Yeah. To be honest with you, the minute I got out of the curtains, I acted like if it was real. I acted like if I got hit, well, I'm not going to hit the guy right back. I'm going to register first. I'm going to register because if I got hit in real life, I would register first.
Yeah, exactly.
like to make sense when I'm in the ring.
Yeah.
You know, and today they're lacking a lot of that, I believe, because the guy who gives the drop kick, the guy who receives the drop kick today, he's up on his feet before the guy who gave it.
Oh, I know.
So, and they're going for their next move and their next move, and everything's like coordinated, like a robot. But in our days, when the match was over, and Jake the Snake would take his snake and he'd come around the guy and he'd put it on him. There was anticipation of that snake getting on him. And when Coco Beware had his birds and people, he went to get his bird. They wanted to see him. And when a guy would go to, when King Kong Bundy would go to hit the ropes to make a big splash on a guy, he wouldn't splash the guy fast. He would go ahead and take his time. He would milk it, and the anticipation was growing. And they don't have that today, I think. That's what I've been told. They don't have that today. So that's why the characters that we had in our days, you know, I think they were much more appreciated in the 80s and early 90s than today. And that's what I'm going to bring back in my academy. So wrestling-academy.ca, you watch this. I'm going to bring a lot of storylines, but storylines that make sense.
Yes.
Where people could watch it and they could absorb it and they could maybe believe in it a little bit, you know, like say, hey, it makes sense, you know. So I'm going to put a sense in this show and with the great characters. And if you go watch this website that I keep telling you about, you have the 42 characters that are there, women and men, and you just go click on their picture and then you'll have a video. And I ask for everyone when they subscribe to send me a 30-second video of their best moves and their best things. Oh, wow. And so you'll get to know the characters, how they work, you know, different styles. And it's amazing. You know, when you go see the Geordie Taylors, the Chris Dillon, the CC Gavalites, the girl, and there's so many talent, you know, that in that show. So go ahead and hook onto the story in Canada and participate in it and vote. And vote, have fun. If you're a wrestling fan, you're going to really enjoy this thing. And another thing that's amazing too is when we come down to the last 8, the last show before the 4 win there's going to be 8. There's going to be 1 girls match in singles, 1 guys match in singles, and 1 tag team match. So that's 4 on each side. And that day, we're going to have the special guest judge as QT Marshall, who's going to be there. Nice. So QT's going to see the 4 winners that he's taking home for 3 months with him. You know, so it's nice. It's something nice to follow. So if you have a chance as we go along until May, if you want to promote this, it's going to be a great thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I would appreciate that very much.
Yeah, definitely.
We put a lot of work into this, and you know, a lot of time. But I feel like I'm leaving something to the business now. Like, you know, my name will always be with all the people in Canada and all around the world. They're going to say, hey, the Mountie came from. You know, we don't like heavy metal. We don't like rock and roll. All we like to listen to is Barry Manilow. Hey, that was the Fabulous Rogeau Brothers. And then we're going to go to the Quebecers, the people follow. Then they're going to go to the Mountie. I am the Mountie. And then we're going to go to Jacques Rogeau, back to where he is and what he's doing for wrestling today. So I think I'll have people have a good souvenir as Jacques Rogeau, the person. Yeah. This is all over.
Wow. And what I like about this is you actually want your guys and girls you want them to tell a story instead of doing a spot fest.
Exactly. And I think that I honestly, you know, they're going to learn so much. They've already learned so much, my talent that I've recruited so far, and they haven't been in the ring yet, but just my psychology. And I'll give you an example. Like every character in different cities and different provinces are getting full page of promotion now for this thing. Nice. And so this one girl calls me today because I set up a newspaper. I set up the newspaper with all the contacts I've had for 41 years. So I set up all the papers to call them and make a storyline on them, you know, so people get interested in them and to vote. So this girl calls me today. She's a big full page, you know, on the paper. If you go on my Facebook, you'll be able to pull it out there while we're talking. But anyway, we got this full page, and she calls me and she's going, oh, I can't believe it. It's in my hometown, you know, it's in the mailbox, you know, I can't believe it, you know. And I told her, the only thing I told her is I said, hey, did you call the newspaper guy and thank him? And she said, no. I said, well, do it. Because I said, next time, maybe when he sees you around and you take the time to call him and to thank him for the story he made of you, then maybe he's going to do another one day.
Right.
You know,
and so,
exactly. So these are all the things that I'm showing my talent that not only in the ring, but out of the ring. So I think they're going to grow tremendously in this competition, in and out of the ring.
Oh, wow. This sounds so great. I'm definitely going to push it.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
You said it's going to start in May, but I'll keep on pushing it. I'll post videos of QT
Thank you so
and
much,
everybody.
Thank you
Oh
so
my
much.
God, yeah.
And just send people on wrestling-academy.ca and subscribe. So listen, Rocco, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I surely did.
Definitely
and
did.
If you ever want to do another one with me as we get closer to the shows in May, I'll come back on the air with you, and I'll keep you updated on what's going on, and to hype this thing and get more, because it's the greatest competition that Canada has ever put together.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely down for, like, once it gets closer to May and everything is coming together, I would love to have you back on the show again.
Thank you so much, Rocco. You're very kind, and I like you, Rocco. You know, I do a lot of podcasts, but you're how can I say that? I feel you're growing on me. You know, you're a very nice guy, and I appreciate your kindness, and your smile is contagious. And so thank you very much for this podcast.
Definitely, buddy. Thanks for taking time out and doing it. I know you're doing tons and tons of these, so thanks for doing this.
But not as good as this one.
Thank you. Thank you.
So have a good night, my friend, and we will talk soon.
Okay, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Remember one thing, Rock. The Mountie always gets his man. See ya.
Thank you. Bye.